This video is brought to you by my Patreons. Once again, pro-lifers proving to us that they are only pro-life under certain circumstances, but they are more than happy to watch the undeniable torture of a family and call it a miracle. It's absolutely ridiculous. Adriana Smith, a 30-year-old nurse from the metro Atlanta area, experienced a medical emergency back in February that involved blood clots in her brain. Smith, who was about 9 weeks pregnant at the time, was declared legally dead, her mother April, Newark told Atlanta TV station. So there is a 30-year-old lady in Atlanta, in the States, who has been clinically dead now for 90 days, I believe it is, since February. And they are keeping her organs functioning because there is a law in her state that states that because they have detected a heartbeat, that they are not obligated under law to terminate any of the services they are providing. Oh, it's so horrible to say. It's so horrible to say. This is insane. Let me compose myself for a second, guys. I've been seeing an awful lot of terminology being used in social media right now that I don't think a lot of people get. And if you know me from my TikTok channel, you know that I am the context police. So we're going to talk about this because I feel like it is important, not just for the family involved, but for the future of families who are undoubtedly going to be affected by this in the future. Because as always, this kind of thing affects us all. And I can already hear the evangelicals being like, it's a miracle, it's a miracle of life. It's mind-boggling. So the term brain dead implies that she's no longer with us. She is clinically dead. Our thoughts and love go out to her family, of course. She's being kept on life support now. A lot of people are saying that the life support is what's keeping her alive. She's not alive. She is no longer with us. She is now essentially being referred to as a vessel, an incubator for a baby who is also very much teetering on the edge of being with us, let's face it. The life support is breathing for her, but she is not here. The brain is the part of the body that makes everything function. Once the brain goes, everything will eventually shut down. It's a horrible situation. And yet, because of these laws, because of these anti-abortion laws in the States, in her state specifically, her family and the doctors, let's face it, are powerless to do anything. They have no say over what happens to her or her fetus within her. Newark said that staff at Emory University's network of hospitals told her they cannot remove the devices that are helping Smith to breathe because of the state's 6-week abortion ban. The staff said they are legally required to keep Smith breathing until the fetus reaches viability. What? And the family have no say. The family have zero say over what happens to their loved one and to anything to do with the situation. She's been breathing through machines for more than 90 days. Newkirk told the television station of Smith, who also has a 5-year-old son. It's torture for me. I see my daughter breathing, but she's not there. And her son, I bring him to see her. But no, pro-life, right? We're pro-life. We're pro-life until it starts living. Bloody hell. But what makes it even more unconscionable is that her family have been denied the space and dignity to grieve. Instead of being allowed to say goodbye, they are being forced to endure an agonizing limbo because of the state's extreme abortion ban. This is not care. This is not justice. It is a cruelty rooted in a system that refuses to see Black women as fully human, even in death. It's absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely ridiculous to think that they have no say over what happens to their child. And I've seen this go around on social media a lot. So I thought I would ask my retired nurse wife a couple of questions just for clarity, because I think a lot of people are hearing things like brain dead and life support and not fully understanding what those terms mean in this context. So I asked Mithy, who is, like I say, a retired nurse, I said, Mithy, see, in the medical profession, when someone is declared brain dead, are they alive? And they looked at me like I had just asked them a ridiculous question, and they said no. Once the brain goes, it is the powerhouse that functions everything in the body, the breathing, everything, the temperature, the body temperature, the hormones that get flushed through the body to keep you functioning. Once that's gone, the body will shut down eventually and you are legally dead. So then I said to Mithy, if someone is legally dead, does life support keep them alive? And the little eyebrow raise that I got, they looked at me like I had just asked them, again, the stupidest question in the world. Of course not. Once someone is dead, they are gone. There is no amount of life support. There is no medical procedure to bring people back from the dead. Once they are legally and clinically dead, that is it. Life support can like breathe for them, but eventually all of the things that come with death, like decay, decomposition, will eventually start rolling in. And that made me think, not only are they forcing this woman through her pregnancy, but they're forcing the family to watch her waste away. They are forcing a family to watch their loved one, to watch a mother watch their daughter degrade and waste away. That is cruelty. That is abhorrent. That is beyond anything, any words that I can bring to this conversation. It's beyond it. And yet pro-lifers are always the ones that are out here being like, life matters until life is living. And then suddenly pro-lifers are very quiet. Suddenly pro-lifers are very stumm. The law in her state does say that if a woman's life is in danger, abortions can be given, but because her life is no longer in danger, her life is no longer there. It's now a moot point in the eyes of the law. She is no longer there. She is no longer a factor in this extreme exception to that law. She has been taken out of the equation, quite literally, and so have her family.
Family is fighting tonight as an Atlanta mother lies brain dead in a hospital room being kept alive only because she's pregnant.
The Georgia abortion law is similar to Kentucky's. No abortion allowed after a heartbeat is detected, with little room for any exceptions.
So we are officially at the using women's bodies as human incubators phase of our dystopian nightmare. And I say dystopian nightmare because this was literally an episode of The Handmaid's Tale. Look it up.
Yep.
But if you consider yourself pro-life, I'm going to need you to watch this video through to the end. And it will likely make you uncomfortable, but good. You need to be made uncomfortable right now. Adriana Smith was a 30-year-old nurse who was 9 weeks pregnant with her second child when she suffered a devastating stroke and unfortunately was declared brain dead back in February. And because she lived in the state of Georgia, which has a very restrictive 6-week abortion ban, the doctors were unable to offer her family any other choice but to keep Adriana's bodily functions alive until they could safely deliver her baby. This was not what Adriana's family wanted, but didn't matter. The law said they had to keep Adriana's body alive. Now let me be clear, Adriana died back in February when she was declared brain dead because brain death is the legal and medical definition of death.
Yeah.
But the doctors are forced to keep her bodily functions alive, artificially with machines and tubes and medications, so that Amber's body could be a human incubator for her fetus. Again, against the family's wishes. Adriana's been kept alive artificially for 90 days already, and she needs to be kept alive for another 11 weeks or so until the doctors can deliver the baby. And to make this matter even more tragic, they're not even sure if the baby's going to survive. The fetus has a lot of fluid on its brain, hydrocephalus, and a lot of medical issues. And if he does survive after birth, he is likely going to have severe disabilities. He's going to be blind and in a wheelchair. And because we live in the United States of America, the family is worried about the mounting medical debt that is accruing every day. And if you're unfamiliar with how expensive a 5-month ICU stay is, with the level of care that Adriana's body is receiving, it's going to be over $1 million.
What? Over $1 million? And you heard that right. Not only are they putting the family through this horrendous torture of watching their daughter decompose whilst being on a breathing machine, but they're also charging them for the privilege because this is America. So they're charging them not only for all of the medical stuff that they're putting them through against their wishes, by the way, but also, as you heard, the fetus already has an awful lot of issues going on in the womb already. Because Adriana isn't with us anymore, her body is not producing all of the nutrients and things that the baby needs to develop properly, which means that the baby, as you heard, is probably going to be born, if born at all. The baby could be stillborn, the baby could have an awful lot of medical problems, it could be blind, we don't know yet. So there's going to be like a mounting cost, not just for the stuff that the family are going through right now, but are they even in a financial state to take care of a child who needs all of that very intense attention in life? It's one of those things, again, where pro-lifers are always pro-life until they actually come out of the womb, and then they stop caring about life when it's starts living. It's ridiculous. You are bankrupting a family during one of the most heartbreaking moments of their life. They've already lost a child, and now you're making sure that they'll never afford another child again, whilst forcing a child into their care. Which, I'm not saying that the family wouldn't unconditionally love this child, but they don't even have the means to sustain that child, and you're taking it away from them right from the off. It's absolutely abhorrent.
The brain dead pregnant black woman in Georgia is an experiment. They are experimenting on her a la Henrietta Lacks, okay? They are wanting to see if they can incubate babies via women who are unconscious or brain dead. If they can use us as human incubators. And they're using a black woman to do it first. Hope this helps.
And as you can see, rightfully so, women are scared. Women are completely, rightfully so, up in arms about this, because where does it go from here? Like, this is just one case, one very horrendous case that is the foundation of horrific atrocities that could be enacted on women and people with uteruses. Because whether people want to admit it or not, as a trans man with a uterus, this still affects me somehow, which is why I will always talk about stuff like this. What affects them affects me, and it's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous to see. But where's the line? Where do we draw the line? When do the evangelicals start to see that these are real people who are being put through some of the most horrendous medical procedures, families being put through financial turmoil, but no, they're quite happy to sit behind their phones and be like, this is a miracle, this is an absolute miracle, God is happy, yay, and then never look at it again. They'll put their phone down, they'll go off, they'll have their very happy lives where it's none of their concern. They'll sit at home and sip their tea and be like, oh, I'm so glad that I put that family through all of that. At least that baby is alive. That baby might not be alive for very long, but no, pro-lifers calling it a miracle. Please.
So after brain death, a body cannot be sustained by life support measures.
Correct.
The brain especially, will start to decompose.
Yep.
Other organ systems fail, even if circulatory and even like feeding support are continued, which is why sometimes hospitals have to like maybe what feels like pressure families into organ donation quicker, and they can't give them infinite time with their loved ones, not just because people are waiting on the organs, but because the brain dead body will begin to break down.
Yeah.
Having someone on life support so that they can carry a fetus for over 20 weeks.
20 weeks.
Crazy. Her body is not going to make it that long.
No, it's not.
The fetus isn't going to make it that long.
I'm afraid not.
People don't understand life support measures, I think, and what they look like and what their limitations are. You can't keep a brain dead body in pristine condition on life support measures. Most people who have been in comas for years are not brain dead. They're in vegetative states. So, yeah, this is gruesome.
It's dystopian is what it is. It's absolutely dystopian. We are living in our dystopian nightmares. And I think people are just happy to not understand. People are just happy to say things like, you need to keep that baby alive, and not really research what it takes, what it means. It's... Oh my...
Tonight, a Metro Atlanta mother lies brain dead in a hospital room, being kept alive only because she's pregnant.
Literal Handmaid's Tale shit. I'm not kidding. Season 3, episode 9. The episode is named Heroic. A handmaid ends up brain dead, and she is kept alive in order to exist as an incubator for the fetus she's carrying. The episode is essentially a horror movie. It's probably one of the most devastating ones. And make no mistake, it was not an accident that the handmaid who was used to perfectly exemplify the usage of a human body as chattel in order to serve the desires of the state was a black woman. It's almost as if they knew. Adriana Smith is completely brain dead, but she's being kept alive against her family's wishes and without her consent, simply because she's pregnant. Mind you, she's been on life support and essentially functioning as an incubator for over 3 months, which is longer than she was pregnant before this. She wasn't even 9 weeks along when this happened. But because of Georgia's abortion ban after around 6 weeks, except in certain cases, which as we know are still often ignored, she is now an incubator for the state. Well, sort of, because despite having no choice in the matter, her family is not only going to be raising the fetus if it survives, but they're also on the hook for all the hospital bills.
Yeah,
despite
they
the fact
are.
that the fetus has fluid in the brain, which can lead to serious health issues and may even result in the inability to survive outside the womb. You understand that someone who has actually passed away has to give prior consent for their organs to be used, right? So I guess this confirms what we always knew. A corpse has more rights than an unconscious woman in a red state.
It's hard truths. It's hard to watch. It's hard truths against the will of everyone involved. And they're right. You do need to give prior consent, even just to have your organs donated, let alone used in a way that is so dystopian. So dystopian. It's absolutely disgusting to see that this is allowed to happen.
This is what an abortion looks like because I fear we have all lost the plot. 5 weeks, it's a clump of cells. 6 weeks, it's a clump of cells. 7 weeks, still a clump of cells. 8 weeks, clump of cells. 9 weeks, guess what? It's a clump of cells. It is a piece of tissue. It doesn't look like a fetus. It's too early to even be considered a fetus. Doesn't look like a baby. There's literally no parts that resemble a baby. Literally a sac that you can see through. It is a clump of tissue. And this is all just to provide some context around Adriana Smith's case, a 30-year-old woman from Atlanta, Georgia, who was 9 weeks pregnant at the time she was considered brain dead, legally dead, who is now being forced to be kept on ventilators and life support against her family's wishes because of Georgia's abortion ban past 6 weeks. She is now being forced to continue her pregnancy on life support until 31 weeks. She is now currently 21 weeks. It has been over 3 months of this. Yes, this is literally what her pregnancy tissue looked like, at which time she was declared brain dead when the state and the hospital decided that by law, she needed to be kept as a human incubator. All because people have decided that at 6 weeks, this little clump of tissue has more rights than women do. Have more rights than anyone with a uterus does.
Like, what reality are we living in right now? What reality is this? Because I want a refund. And it's people seeing medical professionals like that and denying that they're telling the truth. People will literally not listen to medical professionals who are professionals in medicine. It's in the name. And they'll be like, no, it's a human being. It's a life. No matter how much torture we put the families through, it's life. Stupidity is running the world and people are suffering. And I'm at my wit's end. But the baby isn't even developed enough. Its mother isn't there anymore. The body isn't functioning. The body isn't producing what the baby needs to develop properly. So even if the baby isn't stillborn, even if the baby does come into the world, the baby isn't going to be completely developed. You're putting so much pressure on the family. You're putting so much financial pressure onto a family who do not even have a say. Do not even have a say in what happens to their daughter, who is being used as a human incubator, and then their grandson, who will come into the world without a mother, probably not even fully developed, if he comes into the world at all. But no, in the name of God, in the name of God, in the name of God, people must suffer!
So it would seem to me that the pro-forced birth movement has no idea the incredible amount of effort it takes to keep a brain-dead body functioning. From the comments I've been getting and the DMs I've been getting, I think y'all think that the patient is just sleeping, and that's not the case.
Nope.
So as a doctor who takes care of brain-dead patients in the hospital, I'm going to talk to you about what's actually involved in that process to help dispel some of these misconceptions. And if you happen to be pro-choice and are watching this video, make sure you share it far and wide so it gets to the intended audience, okay? Let's get started. So once a patient is declared brain dead, which is an entirely separate process that I'm not going to get into, but after that process takes place, the medical team now has to take over all of the bodily functions that the patient can no longer take care of themselves because their brain doesn't function anymore. So one of those things is breathing. Now, all these patients will already have a breathing tube down their throat and hooked up to a ventilator. However, we can't keep that breathing tube in permanently, right? after 2 weeks, we have to take it out because it can cause a lot of issues. So what we'll do is make a surgical airway. We'll make an incision in the throat right here and put in a tracheostomy tube, and then hook that up to the ventilator. And then the ventilator does all the breathing for the patient, and we can adjust it as needed. How many breaths they take, how deep those breaths are, how much oxygen they get, etc. We're also responsible for maintaining the homeostatic balance within the body because the brain can no longer do that. That means giving medications to make sure things like the temperature, blood pressure, and heart rate don't go too high or too low. We maintain it in a normal range. There's often a lot of hormonal imbalances that come in patients with brain death. For example, one of them is something known as central diabetes insipidus. So that's the patient can no longer absorb water from their kidneys, so they just put out liters and liters and liters of very dilute urine, and they become very dehydrated, and their sodium levels start to rise. So we have to artificially hydrate them and give them a hormone known as desmopressin to help reverse this. And obviously these patients can't eat, they can't swallow, they can't chew, so we have to put a PEG tube, which is a feeding tube, in their stomach and hook them up to tube feeds and then give them their nutrition that way.
And bear in mind that in America, everything he is listing costs money.
These patients require tons and tons of round-the-clock nursing care just to take care of the things that you would take for granted, like brushing your teeth, cleaning yourself. Every time they have a bowel movement, they need to be cleaned. They need to have lubricating eye drops put in so that their eyes don't dry and they get perennial ulcers. So those are just some of the basic things we have to do every single day just to keep the body functioning, let alone the myriad of complications that can arise from being bedbound and brain dead in an intensive care unit. So what are those complications? Well, infection is a big one. And, depending on the medical devices the patient has, can inform their infectious risk. So, for example, if they have a central line for medications, they can get a central line infection and a bloodstream infection. If they have a Foley catheter for, bladder decompression, they can get a urinary tract infection. But a lot of these patients will get what's known as a ventilator-associated pneumonia, which, as the name suggests, is a pneumonia because the patient's on a ventilator. And they're going to keep getting those pneumonias. And every time they get a new pneumonia, there's a risk for breeding a multi-drug resistant bacterial infection, and we have to use stronger and stronger antibiotics every time. And the stronger the antibiotic, the more likely there will be side effects. And then we have to treat those side effects as well with more medications. And even with the best nursing care and the best occupational and physical therapy, the body is going to start to break down because all the artificial support we give is no substitute for just normal bodily processes. So the skin will start to break down and ulcerate and get infected. The limbs will start to atrophy, the muscles will atrophy, the limbs will start to contract, and this can go on for years if the patient's underlying health status was good before they became brain dead. Now, I know this is a long video, so I'm gonna wrap it up. But the thing is, sometimes patients' families want this for their loved one, and we will honor their wishes. We will do it. We have the capability, we have the technology, and this is why we went into medicine, to help people, to help families. But there are families who don't want this. They don't want to see their loved one suffer like this. So they withdraw care, and all that stuff that I just said, we just stop and allow the bodily processes to cease. But the important thing is, we honor the family's wishes. And that's what I don't think you're getting right here. The family in Georgia does not want this, but they're forced to do it because of the law that you championed. So I hope this video helped.
Denying the family the choice. Denying the family the choice. Oh my God. It's a lot.
Adriana Smith is not pregnant. Adriana Smith is not pregnant. The woman in Georgia, she's not pregnant because she's dead. Okay, her family cannot mourn. Her family cannot move on. When her son gets taken to the hospital, he thinks she's sleeping.
Oh my God.
She's never going to wake up because she's legally brain dead. She's being kept alive by machines, and her family can't move on because of some sort of state legislation that said if it has a heartbeat, you cannot get an abortion. Let me tell you something. That clump of cells had more rights than that woman did when she was alive. And let me tell you something else. The doctors can't even take that child out at this point in time because it's incompatible with life. It's got to sit there and incubate for another 10 weeks until they can even try to remove the child from the corpse. And if that doesn't piss you off, it really fucking should. Because the next person that gets into an accident or has a medical emergency, whether or not they know that they're pregnant, their body will then be able to be used as an incubator. Make some fucking noise.
Again, more hard truths to come to terms with, but yeah, make some noise. That's why we're making noise. Oh my god. Because how many women in the future are going to be just legally used as incubators? It starts here, but where does it end? And of course, all of our absolute love goes out to the family, because this is their mourning that's being taken away from them. They're not being allowed to mourn the passing of their family member. Instead, they're having to watch as their grandson is raised in the body of their dead daughter while their dead daughter slowly decays. It's horrendous. This is absolutely mind-numbingly horrendous.
I'm the mother of a brain-dead son whose organs were donated, and I want you to feel free to like and share this, because people need to understand what it's like to keep a brain-dead body alive. My son died on July 5th. He was declared brain dead on July 5th.
My condolences,
They
sweetheart.
don't just immediately take you away and procure your organs when you're brain dead. My son's heart was not doing well. His ejection fraction was down. He had fluid in his lungs. They had to fix all of these things before he could donate. He also had a more rare blood type, so it took them some time to find recipients for him. So I sat in that hospital bed with him for 2 days, because despite the fact that he was legally dead, that was my baby, and I wasn't leaving him in that hospital alone. It wasn't until 2 days later that they came and they did an honor walk, and they took him to another hospital where they did the procurement, and they saved at least 4 lives. During that 2 days, the amount of interventions they had to do to keep my son's body was unbelievable. Obviously, he was on a ventilator, but you also can't regulate your own heartbeat. You can't maintain your own blood pressure. They're giving you all kinds of medications to regulate your heartbeat, your blood pressure. His kidneys were failing. They had to give him medication to fix that. They would fix one thing, and then another thing would go wrong. And sitting there watching it felt wrong. It was horrible watching what they were doing to him. But my son wanted to be an organ donor, and that is why we did it and continued to do it. And my son saved lives. But I don't think you guys understand. This woman is not in a vegetative state. She's not in a coma. She's dead. Her body is not functioning. Her brain is not producing the hormones required to sustain a pregnancy. She is only 9 weeks along, not 15, 16, 17, like some of these other women have been, who have ended up producing a healthy baby, or in many cases, not a healthy baby. But this family is being put through torture. I did this of my own free will, and I am still traumatized. It's been 2 years. You have no idea what the family of this woman is being put through.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was one of the most, that was like one of the bravest TikToks I've ever seen, honestly. It is important that people who don't understand the situation and are pushing for this kind of torture to happen see things like this, although I don't know if they're even capable of comprehension. I don't know if they're even capable of the empathy that you need when you see a family suffering like this, when you see a mother suffering like this, to feel anything for them. I don't think they're capable, because if they were capable, they wouldn't be pushing for this kind of medical procedure in the first place. But I think it's important because Adriana's been used as an incubator since February, and yet we're only hearing about it now in May. Their voices need to be heard. What affects them affects us all. And I feel like it's really important to remember that educating yourself on how these things work, what they really mean, what they really are, is so important. We're supposed to look out for each other. We're supposed to honour everybody's human dignity. Human decency is a rarity in these times, in 2025. And I would love to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. It's just so difficult when you see something so inhumane and moronic as this, to try and make sense of it, because there is no making sense of it. There are stupid people out there who want the suffering of others, and they're forcing their fellow man to suffer. And I cannot abide it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreons and my channel members. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Thank you if you've subscribed. If you're not subscribed already, consider hitting that subscribe button. I'm going to go and take a lie down. I'll talk to you guys in the comments. Thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know what you think. See you in the next one.